What? Okay. Oh, well, I guess we're not on Facebook. Hey, everyone. It's Evolution of Fitness live. I'm Ella Majors, holistic fitness coach and lifelong athlete with a passion for personal evolution, which is why today's guest, Fred Holt, is so aligned with the purpose of this podcast. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So today, you guys, I'm going to be giving you some updates about my ACL surgery. I'm sitting here, show you, ice in my knee right now. So I'm going to tell you about how that went. And then we are going to be diving into the internal arts today, specifically Tai Chi, which I've been practicing consistently now for like 5 months?
Something like that, yeah.
And I want to, under Fred's guidance, and I'm excited to share what's changed for me, what's shifted already in such a short amount of time. And I want to first off welcome you all who are joining live and those who are watching the recording. So if you're here, I know a couple people are popping on. Feel free to post in the comments, share who you are, where you're tuning in from. And I'm curious about whether you have any preconceived notions about what Tai Chi is. I asked in our WhatsApp group, I did a little poll to see where people were at. And I think only 1 or 2 people had ever tried it. A couple people were intrigued and wanted to try. One person said, nah, not my jam. Never tried and not my jam. So that was interesting. So we'll be diving into all of that. And you guys, the Fred's bio is in the show notes. You can read all about it. But do you want to take just like 1 minute to share in a nutshell kind of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So as a Tai Chi instructor, I've learned to really help people to fix their body, realign, learn what true power is, learn how to stay relaxed at the same time that you're moving. And, you know, I first started off as a martial artist, just wanting to learn to get stronger and tougher and so on. And over time, it just evolved into this much bigger, powerful thing that I had no idea what it was. So you just mentioned to me that some people don't really want to try it. And I understand that it's not for everybody. Everybody should find what works for them. However, you don't really know what it is until you've done it. And that's something that we're starting to come up against. And that's why I'm happy to be here on this podcast, because it's helping us to educate people to know what's going on, how it works, why it's good. I mean, essentially, it will improve everything you do in your life, everything.
And I'm starting to get just a little taste of that after 5 months. Hey, Valerie, welcome. Valerie's here from Massachusetts. And she said, I'm very pulled to Tai Chi, but have never had a chance to learn. And Allison here again from Scotland. Hey, Allison. And remind me, I think you maybe were in the poll, but I'm curious. I think you said you were intrigued about Tai Chi, but had not tried it yet. All right. So you guys, first, let me give you a quick update. I had my ACL reconstruction surgery on Friday. They took a piece of, this is my second ACL surgery. The first time was a repair, even though it was a full tear, for those of you who didn't catch the first 2 episodes. This second time around, I retore it my first day back sparring in Muay Thai. And this time around, it's a full reconstruction. So they took a piece of my patellar tendon and reconstructed my ACL, and then did an ALL reconstruction in addition, which means they took a piece of my IT band, I don't quite understand how it works, but they wrapped part of my IT band around the reconstructed ACL for added security. So I feel like I think my ACL is going to be kind of indestructible. But surgery went really, really well. I dreamed while I was under, I just remember waking up from the anesthesia, having just been in a dream about doing my animal locomotives, which I'm sure you're not surprised about. I was doing like my gorilla moves. And if you haven't seen on Instagram, you guys tune in on Instagram, I show this kind of stuff, my chimpanzee moves, all this good stuff. Speaking of which, Nelson, the person who taught me those things, will be on the show next week. So anyway, so I did that, and then I was feeling really pretty fine afterwards, and I was so ready to go. My friend Christian had picked me up from the hospital, and they were taking forever to wheel me downstairs. So I took my other foot and started like scooting my way. I was like, I'm just going to take myself out. And the nurse looked over. She said, "We've got an escapee." And she felt bad for me and she took me out. But the next morning, so like 18 hours later, I was in the park doing Tai Chi 18 hours later. Were you all surprised?
Yeah, you told me you were coming to Tai Chi the next morning. I was like, really? You sure? You're like, yeah, I'll be there. I'm like, all right. And she came there and she was standing up with a brace on for a while and sat down and did her best to stay active, which is very commendable.
Yeah, I just wanted to, the consistency is important, and I was on the nerve block too. So I was like, this is easy breezy. I'm not in pain.
No problem.
No problem. When the nerve block wore off, it was a little change of story the next day. But by Monday, I was back training and teaching and just icing and elevating. And I think in part because of some of the work we did together, in part some of the work I did strength training specifically, and maybe these peptides I've been on maybe have something to do with it also. But you guys, like 5 days in, and I know it's not a race. Everyone's like, it's not a race. But 5 days in, I'm already meeting the phase 1 protocol that is supposed to be met within the 2 to 3 weeks. I'm already off crutches. I can walk around the house without the brace on. So I'm freaking doing fantastic.
I think what you're saying is pretty important for people to understand.
Tell me.
Okay, because having mental integrity in the way you move is a huge part to learning any method you learn: yoga, Tai Chi, Kung Fu, karate, Pilates, whatever you're doing, trying to really go beyond just the movement by itself, cleaning it up, understanding how you can get stronger and push yourself and defeat issues, and heal yourself. And that's what you're doing. You're healing yourself.
Yeah, and I think those biomechanics, it's been so interesting because I have a lot of experience and, being a personal trainer for 20 some years. But when I started doing Tai Chi and the way you have trained me, I am connecting with my body. And I am somebody who's very body aware, and I've got a lot of mobility and I do lots of great things, but I've learned so much in these 5 months that surpasses anything I've ever done before. And this is Tai Chi. And like people wouldn't think that is the case.
People wouldn't think that. No. But not every Tai Chi teacher is the same, right? Like that's the stuff I focus on, is the biomechanics. How do we move? How do we make things right so we don't hurt ourselves? How do we fix ourselves? And so on. And so it doesn't really replace what you do. So a lot of people think, okay, if I'm going to go train Tai Chi, but I already do Muay Thai, for example, or I already do yoga, that I don't need to go do Tai Chi because I do that. And I don't want to replace what I do. And it's not really a replacement. It's more like a fill in the missing pieces in between what you do, because no art can cover every single facet, so having all those options is ideal.
And I also see it as like rebuilding a stronger foundation for the other things that we're doing.
Yeah. So it's a study in yourself, self-exploration, self-discovery, and realignment. You start to align things that you didn't realize were out. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like an evolution of the arts. It's something that you grow into over time.
And I want to get to your story of how you got into Kung Fu, the external martial arts, and have you explain external versus internal, and then your Tai Chi. But first, I want to say why I have decided to be consistent, because I know one of my masterminds members, Nina, was saying, I just don't think it's my jam. It's so slow. And I think there's a lot of preconceived notions also about Tai Chi being for old people, or, it's hard to see the value until you really understand it and really do it. And for me, the same thing. Like, I'm an intense workout kind of person. Like, I get a high off the intensity of moving fast and those high intensity workouts. I mean, HIIT is a thing and CrossFit is a thing because there's a certain high you get from moving fast and really pushing hard and in those kind of dynamic ways. And what happened was, and for those of you who don't know, insomnia is kind of my Achilles heel when it comes to my own health journey, and something that I'm still working on solving for myself. So I had an Ayurvedic, when I got my yoga teacher certification, I had an Ayurvedic consultation. And he's like, look, you have all these injuries. You've torn your ACL, this and that. He's like, you need to slow down. He's like, you need to slow down to reset. I'm vata imbalance, which means kind of like flighty. It's an air quality. And I knew about Tai Chi, it's grounding. And he's like, you need grounding practices. So I thought, and I knew Fred from our mutual friend Nelson, and I knew that he trained in the park every Saturday. And I was like, I'm doing it. Did you believe I was going to be committed?
Well, you had come like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. You had
like
popped in one time. Yeah. And I wasn't sure, because most people that come from the world of all of what you just explained don't really relate to Tai Chi right away. But what I explain to people is that you got to have balance in life. That's what yin yang is, right? So if I'm only going hard all the time, then I'll start to only be hard. I need to have the soft, just like masculine versus feminine. It's just about finding the balance.
Yeah, I've got the yang thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm an entrepreneur. I'm go. I'm up at 4:44 in the morning. Like, so my word of the year this year was soften. And so it was perfect timing to start the Tai Chi. So before we get into your story, because I want you to tell your story, but can we did it last week, and Allison did it with us. I don't know if anybody else watching did it with us, but we did the standing like a tree from a seated position.
Okay.
I didn't explain it well.
Okay.
So maybe could you explain?
Absolutely.
And us do it for 15 minutes.
Okay.
And I need help naming this segment. This is a segment, and I was going to call it the drop and drink challenge, because then we drink, and I did set this up, but neither one of us is going to drop our arms. Like, I already know that. But we've got the Live Ultimate. This is our reboot shot of my favorite greens drink. And so I've made them our official sponsor for the show, at least for now. Discount code in the comments or in the description. So let me set the timer. Yes. Anybody else going to do this with us? 15 minutes. So every time you need a break. And I remember my first time, I think I did 5 minutes. And now I'm up to 21.
Yeah.
So if anyone else is going to do it with us, the idea is you get your shots of Live Ultimate. If you need a break, you get a reboot shot, because the Live Ultimate is the ultimate reboot to recharge. Let's set the timer for 15.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Valerie, that's a really good point, what you're saying there about the blue zones.
Can you read it?
So she asked, is it good enough to be championed in the blue zones? And there must be something to a regular Tai Chi practice. And I agree with that. I feel that way 100%. It's basically like allowing yourself to recover, taking the time to feel your body and getting to know yourself and feeling your energy. That's very important for life.
And I feel like the energy thing is like energy. There's so much about energy, and that's what Tai Chi is really all about, right? I mean, so
preparing the vessel, yes.
So let's show us how to set yourself up, and then we'll start.
Okay, so this one is called standing like a tree. We put the hands out in front. What we want is that we have a ball in between the arms. So it wouldn't be like this and turned in. It wouldn't be squared. It would be rounded, right? So that's the first thing I want to do. The second thing you're going to do is, as soon as you get here, you're going to notice that your shoulders might start to burn a little bit. Pretty. I'm
setting the timer, you guys. Let's go.
Get it going.
Okay.
Okay, so the first lesson here is to relax the shoulders and the traps and the neck and start to breathe. That's where we start. The more you can relax your shoulders and let them slide down the back, right? The shoulder blades slide down the back. The crown stays tall. If you ever read any of the classic Tai Chi books, they'll tell you that it is okay to do it standing, by the way. In the Tai Chi books, they'll say that the crown is lifted up to the heavens and the body's falling underneath it. That's a very important idea, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to decompress our spine at the same time. So it's not just a skill of holding your arms up. That's part of it. Now, most important thing here is that you are breathing big, deep breaths, if you can, in and out of the dantian, which is underneath your belly button in the center of your body. So basically, you want to breathe from your core, from your center, filling up your body, full body breathing in and breathing out. So, Allison, if you're doing this standing, what you want to do is pay attention that your feet and your knees are aligned and that you have a nice structure going down from your foot to your hips, and that you're balanced between left and right, so you're not too off to the side. And if you do this kind of stuff in the mirror, At first, you might not notice, but after a while, you're going to just see so clear how you've just been leaning to the right or leaning to the left, or one shoulder is up or one's down. All these little things that for some reason were just invisible to our eyes until you start to train it. And that's part of where the mind body connection comes in. So by training this way and really feeling it and getting to know what's in our body, we're saturating our mind into our body here. We're taking big, deep breaths. We're releasing, we're examining, we're paying attention. The more you can relax your shoulders, the more you can relax your neck, the more you can just stay calm and keep breathing, is when you start to feel the benefits. Now, when you stand here, there's no doubt, especially when you're new, that you're going to start to get to a point where things are really burning. And when that happens, you want to just breathe, relax, stay calm, and just let it pass. Once it passes, everything will open up and we'll have some new connections and we'll feel the energy going through. One of the ideas is that is stagnation in the body, right? So those shoulders burning, which is where it's going to start at, the more I can release that, the more I can let things flow through the system instead of holding them and blocking them like a dam. So we want to think about that as we're standing here. Now, the amount of detail in these postures, we could write an entire novel about this, and probably three different novels at least. But this is the most universal of all of the standing meditations, standing like a tree. And as it says, standing like a tree, if you're standing up, you want to think about your feet pushing down into the earth like roots, right? Your legs are like the trunk of the tree going up into your body, going out into your arms, which are thick branches from the tree, going into your hands, going into your fingers, which become the smaller branches. And then all the way from your fingertips, you might start to feel some leaves starting to grow, some energy or some life force at the tips of the fingers. And remember, a tree is growing in every direction, upwards, downwards, forwards, backwards, left, right, in, out. So we start to look to understand those energies. Those are the 8 directions that we want to be aware of while we do this. Now, in the beginning, that's, it's just like book smart in the beginning, but over time, you start to feel them, you start to understand them, and it will profoundly change everything you do in life.
Can you share what in just 5 months changes you've seen in me?
Sure. Well, when I first met Ella, I definitely was impressed by her grit and her workout ethic. She's a strong woman, as you can see, and she works out very hard. Some of the things I noticed was that her neck was very tense. It doesn't look tense anymore at all. I mean, it used to get so tense that I would see veins pop out in the neck, and I do see that in a lot of people. It's not random for just her, but things like that, right? And now we don't see that. So that right there is a huge impact, because when I'm teaching people sometimes and I start telling them new moves, I'll see them squeeze the traps, squeeze the neck, and get hard for them to think. It becomes hard for them to comprehend. Left arm up, right arm down, like the most simplest things that sound so simple. And I think it has to do with the squeezing of the blood flow and oxygen to the brain. I'm not a doctor, but the way I see it, the way I watch it, it's definitely a huge impact. So learning to keep everything relaxed, keep the breath going, stay calm and aware is also a huge lesson here. So I've seen that already happen for her, which is huge.
Fiona.
That's one thing. Number 2, she's learned the form faster than anybody I've ever known in my life. So the form that we are talking about is called the Yang 24, Y-A-N-G. It's probably the most famous Tai Chi form in the world at the moment. It was developed by some masters who wanted to make it a little easier to learn Tai Chi. So they put together a nice sequence for us to get just to get our feet wet, instead of investing so much. Give yourself time to know if you really like it or not. And so she's already got that. Of course, now the work begins, right? Now you got the sequence. Now we got to start to clean up all the details, which is endless.
It's fun. It's fun to have the form, like,
yeah,
to have something to work on and come back for each week to build on. But also, it's not a race, and you can get the form and not get anything out of it, I'm sure, if you're not doing it.
That's true. But the first step is getting the sequence memorized. That's important. And so, for example, this position we're in right now, while I'm standing here, I'm going to also fix my spine up. I want to make sure my belly isn't popping out, right? I want to lightly engage my core, putting my core in place, pushing my spine backwards, actually, behind the belly button, so I get a straighter spine. And so doing that and standing in these meditations, we learn the qualities of the body. We learn the spine, we learn how to stay relaxed and so on. And then we take something like the form and we want to try to apply this understanding of posture and release into movement now. So now we have a truly productive way of doing the form because we're trying to add qualities in from our training. And so that's what makes Tai Chi Tai Chi. You know, if you just watch a video and you do some of the movements, that's great. But understanding the qualities inside of them and how to use the applications of each movement, that's what starts to create all the power and the understanding.
So speaking of power, when people think of power, I think Kung Fu is definitely something that looks very powerful. Yeah. That was that your first martial art? Can you tell how you got into that?
So, you know, I grew up reading all the martial arts magazines. I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s when Bruce Lee was still super famous. And so I'd always read all the magazines. I was fascinated by martial arts. I loved all the martial arts movies. And, I did some random stuff like Taekwondo and stuff as a kid, little things. I did a lot of athletics, a lot of sports. And then when I got into middle school, they had wrestling and I signed up to wrestling. First day I went into wrestling, I was mind blown when they told us that it wasn't a 3 count on the pin. Because I had been watching WWE, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. And they're like, oh, it's not 3, it's only 1. And we're like, what? We didn't even know it wasn't real. We weren't sure. We were skeptical, but we were little kids. And so I wrestled for, every year of middle school, every year of high school. I loved it. It developed a good foundation in me. I always just found comfort in my workouts, in the struggle for some reason. It's something that I've always loved to be in. And then from there, I went into judo for a few years, which is a evolution of wrestling. It's wrestling, but now we have submissions. And a good way to think of what judo is now would be like what BJJ has become. BJJ actually evolved.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yes. It evolved from judo. Okay, judo was the foundational piece that made it what it is. And of course now, like these guys are like brainiacs. They have taken it to the next level and created so many new pieces. It's really amazing. Anyway, so after that, I did that for a few years, and then I went into Shaolin Kempo, which is a form of Kung Fu, but it's a little bit more about just fighting. It's not really about stances and structure and true inner strength. It's just like a very external thing. Let's just learn how to fight, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you do, it doesn't matter unless you can fight. That was always the story there. And I related to that for a long time as a youth, as a young, angry kid, not angry, but, I definitely had a lot of aggression as a youth. So that teacher was a great teacher and I really enjoyed having him, but he started disappearing. He was hooked on drugs and I didn't know what that was at the time. I had no awareness of what that meant. And so he wouldn't show up for weeks at a time and eventually months at a time. And eventually it just wasn't coming anymore. So a friend of mine was going to a Kung Fu school and he's like, hey, come check this out and, see what it is. I'm like, okay, I'll go try it out. Something different. And the first day I got there, we had to hold horse stance and some of the other stances. And I had never actually held any of those postures like that. And it was very eye-opening to me because it was very difficult, a lot of burn. And I immediately recognized that as something that could make me stronger. So I trained that for many years. And, I really appreciated the arts at that time. So the school I was going to was in North Miami. And the teacher, the whole school was very good at the time. Then I went and actually I broke my leg. So that took me out for a little while, right around this time.
How'd you break your leg?
Playing football out in the park with the guys, no pads, tackle football. And my knee got dislocated and that took me out for a while. Anyways, when I finally got back into it, I did American Top Team for a while in Fort Lauderdale. There was a place by Las Olas over there, and it was a great school. And we were doing a lot of jujitsu, and I loved it because I loved grappling for the longest time. And you're just getting little injuries here, little injuries there, and started getting to the point where I'm like, like I love it, but I feel like I have enough of it that I'd like to explore something else that doesn't hurt me as much. So I started going to the Kung Fu school again, and I went back there. And this time it was very different than it had been before. And, I went there for a few years, and over time I started realizing, I'm like, wait, this doesn't seem quite right. Like postures don't seem right. Because the more you learn something, the more you can see it, you can understand it. And over time I would ask them, hey, I would go up to black belts. Hey, do you feel like you could defend yourself? Do you feel like you know things? And I would just see them giving out black belts to people that couldn't even hold horse stance for 1 minute. They couldn't even do it right. And it just started becoming very questionable. And, that's something important to know when you're in the arts, is that like understanding the validity of where you are and who you're learning from. And, because a lot of people are like, well, what's better, Tai Chi or Taekwondo or BJJ or Muay Thai or Aikido? And I'm like, well, you don't have that choice, right? What teacher do you have around you? Is your teacher good? That's very important. Good teacher, good community is very important for training. Anyway, so over time, I started to realize this place isn't right. I find another school to go to, which is much better. I start training there. I learn a lot. I grow. I learned that everything I had wasn't quite right, and I had to fix it. And I spent a year replacing all my stances, fixing them up, and so on. Then I left there and I went to another school where they told me, oh, that wasn't quite right. They started fixing it up again. And it just was kind of like this ongoing thing of just like finding better skilled teachers over time. And so over time, I just keep training. And now, we have enough where we just have so much to train. We do ongoing online learning. We go and meet with high level teachers, and we still practice, and we just keep growing. And that's kind of how I got where I am now.
Where did the Tai Chi come in?
Well, Tai Chi is a evolution of Kung Fu or of any martial artist, right? So it's not like Kung Fu and Tai Chi are different. They are, but they're not. They're the same underlying pieces. And so if you want to truly train your body, like how yoga has a power vinyasa and then it will have a yin class. It's the same thing, right? You have this, it's still both yoga, but very different. And they complement each other. So as you do that, you start doing the Tai Chi, and then you come back to your Kung Fu and you're like, wow, I can move a little better. I feel a little faster. I feel lighter. I feel more grounded. And then you go back to the Tai Chi and you keep coming back and forth. And then once you do that, you start realizing, wow, this is really cool how this works. So now I find myself doing a lot more Tai Chi and Kung Fu and yoga.
Speaking of yoga, so I don't know, what do you call Damo Mitchell?
Damo Mitchell is a
timer, 15 minutes.
Okay.
What do we do after?
Okay, after just let the hands down and just let them relax downwards. Just if you let them go down, you'll feel all that tension you built up in the shoulders and all that lactic acid and all that chi. You'll feel it start to drain downwards. So just relax the shoulders, take deep breaths, and let it go to the hands.
How did it go, you guys who are doing it? Curious. I feel like you said before, once you hit the 15-minute mark, if you can do 15, you can do 20, you can do 30.
Yeah. So 15 is an elusive number in the beginning. For people that do seated meditation, it might be a little easier. They'll understand it a little more. But yeah, so once you get to 15, it opens up. But getting to 15 is a challenge.
Valerie, did you keep them up the whole time? All right. So before we continue, as a treat, as our celebration for finishing, we get to do Are you doing the whole thing? Are you chugging?
I haven't tried it yet. We're going to see. It's not bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Who else has had it? It's green.
I don't mind at all.
That's how I do it.
That's how you roll.
That's how I do it. All right. So, Oh yes. So speaking of Donald Mitchell, who what is he?
Okay, Donald Mitchell is a phenomenally talented genius guy who is a TCM, traditional Chinese medicine,
Okay.
acupuncturist, internal artist, very knowledgeable, and he writes a lot of great books.
Yeah, so I'm reading one of his books, and he's got a podcast. And one of the episodes I saw recently was called, I think it was the yogification of qigong.
Hmm.
So, and you guys, we're gonna have Fred back on here because there's just so much to dive into, specific topics. I want to really get into the yin and the yang, and talk about push hands, and there's so many things. So we're gonna just scratch the surface today, and then we'll have Fred back on, and you guys can come back with questions, and we'll have questions. But I think this is important, because if we're talking to people who are like, I'm interested, but I don't know how to get started, and who do I turn to? So I'm curious what your thoughts are about the yogification of qigong and tai chi.
Well, I think the yogification is a good thing, right? If it's being done right. And I mean, there's no way to control what's right and wrong, and our opinions are our opinions. But something happened with yoga. Like when I was young, there wasn't yoga anywhere. Yoga was this mystical art. I had no idea what it was. It just sounded so far away. Now it's everywhere. Now it's a very popular thing, and a lot of people are doing it, and I really love that. I think that's phenomenal. So with that being said, now you see a lot of Tai Chi. A lot of yogis are starting to look at Tai Chi now because they want to feel more energy. Like, okay, I can do these postures, but how can I add my chi into them? How can I feel more energy while I'm doing these postures, and so on? And so just like that explosion that happened in yoga, I think Tai Chi, it's time for that to happen. People are going to start looking for more out of it. Now, to me, the reason the yogification could be good for it is because Tai Chi has this image of old people in the park in these fancy, bright silk outfits right now, And like, as much as that is phenomenal, and some of those old people in the park are super skilled, and they would feel like a mountain if you tried to push on them. You would be mind blown. But the look and the style and the traditional, values and the way they present it has to change. Everything has to evolve. That's what this is. Tai Chi is an evolution of your movement, right? So same thing should happen with the way we present it. It should evolve, and I'm happy to be fortunate enough to work with more fitness people, and also have the older people as well. We work with everybody.
But also the other thing about it, I think what he was talking about too, is that now they have like weekend long get certified in qigong. So how do you know if somebody's, because there aren't really certifications, right?
It's the same thing in yoga.
It's the same, exactly.
You can get certified, but at least yoga is requiring a little more. As of now, qigong and tai chi does not have a governing body overseeing those certifications.
Yeah.
So anybody could give you a certificate saying anything, and it could mean whatever you want it to mean.
Let's talk about chi for a moment, because this is what I'm saying. This is going to scratch the surface. You need to be back soon. But I think chi and the yin and the yang are two concepts that I think we should cover in a nutshell.
So if you do yoga, we have something called prana, right? Breath, spirit. In Tai Chi and Kung Fu, we call it chi. So it's basically all the same thing. And something that's very interesting is that when you look back to all of the ancient civilizations that all were trying to grow stronger and fix their body and find out ways to live longer and be happier and healthier, they all had a word for this exact thing of chi. They all had a way to describe it. They all felt it. They all were in touch with it. They all understood it in different ways. And so the first thing that you got to know about chi is that it's not a magical sensation. It's not magic. You don't just pretend you're feeling it and you feel it. So you got to be very careful that you don't do things where you just imagine and move in chi all the time, because you won't actually do it. And one of the reasons that we stand with our arms up and we learn to relax and we do all the exercises we do is because we're actually preparing the vessel to move the chi. We're opening the body up. We're getting rid of the stagnant points so that the chi can flow freely. And until you've done the work and stretched and opened and so on, you can't truly feel it correctly. And that takes time. Now, The great things about it is it helps us heal, it helps us feel good, it helps us stay calm, it helps us fight anxiety. It's the opposite of dis-ease, right? We are not making, we're not stagnation in the body, we're creating ease of flow. So it's literally the exact word of dis-ease. We are creating ease. That's the whole goal of it. That's what we do. And by getting the chi to move through the body, we can heal and fix things like knees and shoulders and so on.
Speaking back with the tree for just a moment, Allison said she felt it in her lower back. Like,
yes.
Yeah. What do you say about where you feel things during these meditations?
Well, the spine, you're going to feel it for sure. Well, one of the things that we know is that when we're doing the meditation, we can kind of look at it like it's a live MRI, right? Where you sit there with your body, observe, you go inside, you look around, you feel, and you start to find the spots that need some attention. So a burning spine means that we need to get our spine stronger. We need to get the connections in there better. We need to get it healthier, right? And this is a great way to actually make it stronger, is just standing there. And most people are pretty mind blown when we do standing for the first time. It's usually a very big thing, and I usually get more reaction to it than any other movements. People are always just like, "Wow, what was that? How did that work?" And either you're up for it or you put your arms down, and it's hard, And that's like the first lesson, is learning to overcome the woes of the body, right? Not letting the body convince you that it's in any trouble, because you're literally just standing here, your arms are up, so right. There's no danger.
And I relate, those of you who are clients of mine know or have been through my programs, I relate that it's this place of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
Like leaning into the discomfort and learning from it rather than reacting from it and feeling like you have to make a change, right?
Yeah. So when you first start, the burning in the shoulders, the burning in the spine, all of that is very normal, and that's going to happen. Over time, as that starts to relax itself more, you can start to get into other things and start to really find other pieces, and things start to reveal themselves.
And I know for me, and I know you were saying that the tension in my shoulders, I used to walk around, and I'm sure many of you guys can relate, just constant, like I'd be like, oh, that's just where my stress goes, right? And it was like just in my traps, just so much tension. After I did training sessions, so much tension. And that tension is all but gone and this is the only, it's
and we're just starting.
And we're just starting. Like, it's significant, the difference I feel. And having done this now for 5 months, now I feel like when I do my yoga feels like almost nothing unless I am applying the principles that I'm learning in Tai Chi to my yoga practice. Otherwise, I feel like it feels like a way. I mean, I'm not lying, you guys. Now, if I did yoga and didn't think about the principles that I'm learning in Tai Chi, it would feel like an hour of wasted time.
Well,
it's that intense for me.
I agree. And when I do my yoga, I'm moving a lot of chi. I'm opening. So all of the principles are pretty much the same. It's just that Tai Chi is going to explain them to you differently or put more emphasis into certain things. But if you listen, they talk about the same things. The prana, the dantian is one of the chakras. Like it all coincides. You can lay them next to each other all day long.
And I think maybe because Tai Chi is slower and it's so intense, of less about the external movements and more about the internal movement and internal energy and moving the energy, that without that, it's hard to apply those principles while you're moving as fast as a lot of yoga classes go now.
That's right. That's correct. And so there's a famous thing in Tai Chi where the student goes to the master and he says, "Why are we moving so slow?" And the master just laughs and he says, we're so busy. There's just so much going on. If you run through it, you don't really know how you got there. Like, for example, transitioning from warrior 1 into warrior 3, for example, how do you get from A to B? So it's not just about the posture itself. The postures are just sticking points, but the in-betweens, how you get there, keeping your balance on the way, keeping everything calm and open, your breath big, like that's where the magic happens.
Also, do you want to share just a few, as we start to wrap up here, a few other changes you've seen in your clients? Like your one client who grew an inch, like that's,
Sure,
that's pretty mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And actually he's growing more. So I had one client that I met him, and, you know, actually I had a few clients with the same issue in men. A lot of men will have like their back right here at the thoracic area will be popping out. It's called kyphosis, and you'll see them kind of leaning over. So that's one of the first things we start to adjust, is just getting the spine aligned and growing. And most people gain some height from doing Tai Chi pretty fast. Most people. And a quarter inch or whatever it is, but yeah,
an expansion.
Yeah, and now we're realizing that his legs weren't stretched out all the way, and now he's gaining even more. Now it's pretty cool.
It's insane. Yeah. Like an entire, but an inch.
He's gained an inch. Yeah,
he's gained an inch.
He's gained an inch in height because he just had compression in his body he wasn't aware of. Yeah,
he can grow inches other places. Yeah. Men would be lined up to do Tai Chi.
It can happen.
It can happen.
It can happen.
You heard it. Anything else in terms of? Well,
injuries, you know, I appreciate having all of you on here. I like being here. I really respect Ella as a practitioner and teacher, and I'm happy that she's training with us. And if you want to follow any of our videos, I have some workout Tai Chi videos on my channel, which she can link for you guys. And, you know, any questions, I'm always open to answering. Love talking about it.
Yeah, follow Fred on Instagram. We'll have the link, and on YouTube. Facebook, you're on all the things. So we'll have those links in the show notes. He's got some great Instagram videos, like shorts, with starting to do more explaining about.
There's some lessons on there, and there's also some workouts. So there's a good little, and growing, only evolving like everything else.
That's right. Evolution of fitness. I told you. All right, you guys, thank you so much for those joining us live, for those watching the recording. Hit some comments down there if you have any questions. We can also have Fred reply in the comments as well. And make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode, and join the Evolution of Fitness Club. We've got a WhatsApp group. As soon as we hit 100 members, we will start running some really fun fitness challenges through that club. It's 100% free to join. So join that and grab yourself some Live Ultimate so you can do our challenge right here. I think this is going to be a regular segment. I want to hear what you guys think about that, but I think it's going to be a regular segment on the show. I think it's fun to do that with guests.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, you guys. Have a fabulous rest of your day. See you soon. Bye.